Seeing the downward trajectory that Marvel movies have been going in ever since Endgame came out, I did not expect much when going in to watch the Marvels. Surprisingly, in some aspects, it usurped my expectations, but in others, it just sort of continued the trend of Marvel movies getting a downgrade in quality year after year. I like to end things on a positive note, so I'll start off with the negatives and then end things off with the positive and then finally into my final conclusion. So, first off, the pacing felt off. Even though the movie is only an hour and 45 minutes long, it still felt slow. This was one of the weirder aspects of the movie because if you didn't know, The Marvels, coming in at just an hour and 45 minutes, is the shortest movie in the MCU. For some reason, in a way, it still felt as long as the regular 2 hour 15 minutes, 2 hour, 2.5 hour films that they usually bring out, because for some reason, especially around that middle portion in between like them initially meeting each other and then to the final battle, in between there, it felt weirdly slow. And I say weirdly because obviously it's not that long of a movie, it's just an hour and 45 minutes, but probably thanks to the sort of inactivity of the movie, like nothing much interesting happening, but it just kind of kept going anyway. It just felt really weird and just like weirdly off kilter in a sort of way, because I just couldn't understand how it felt so slow, even though it's not that long of a film. It just came down to just bad pacing, I thought. So yeah. Second negative I would say is that The Marvels has a bad screenplay. The story wasn't as clearly told as it could have been. It's a simple story, not complex or deep, and I got the gist of it easily, but the bad pacing mixed with the screenplay made it harder to understand than I think it should have been. This is another weird aspect of the film, because usually, at least, even in the lower tier, lower quality MCU movies that we've been getting ever since Endgame ended, at the very least, I could say that the screenplay for most of them are decent. But in this one, I really felt that it had a bad screenplay, because if you look at it, like if you read like a general consensus of the story, just like a sentence or two, that would be basically the whole story, right? It's a very simple story, very straightforward, very, ABC sort of like story. It's nothing complex or anything like that. But I still found myself, challenged to fully understand it. For some reason, it just felt really just like, of course, like me saying it here, it sounds simple and it's because it is simple, but if you actually, it's just one of those things when you have to watch the movie to understand what I'm saying. If you actually watch the movie, I think that a good amount of people will have a hard time sort of putting everything that the movie is telling you together, right? In a really weird way. For some reason, I just found myself having to sit with it like after the movie was over to really kind of put two and two together to really understand what some characters were saying, because for some reason it just felt not as well explained and as well conveyed to the audience as it could have been. For some weird reason, like it just fell off, just kind of like the pacing where the movie's short but it felt slow. The screenplay, it's simple, but the way how the movie tells the story to the audience, it felt weirdly off kilter. It felt weirdly complex when it really wasn't. It's just this really weird feeling that I got watching the film, and I've heard some other people say it, so I know that it's not just me. So yeah, bad screenplay basically. In point number 3, my third negative, it's a bit of a mixture of different points, but like small points that I don't think sort of should have, gotten their own spot. So I just kind of put it in here and under this one banner, right? The movie does not feel significant enough to justify its existence. The same feeling that I got with previous and recently previous MCU movies, kind of like Thor, Love and Thunder, Ant-Man Quantumania, and to some extent Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, is that it's the same feeling of, why does this exist? Why did this have to get made? Like, especially Quantumania and especially Love and Thunder, that were supposed to be these big movies. They, advertised them as these big sort of shifting events in the history of the canon and stuff like that, right? But when I actually went and watched these movies, they weren't anything that they said that they were. The villain, Darben, was serviceable but unmemorable. Nothing against the actress who plays Darben, because she did a pretty good job, I think, with what she was given, and she has a very sort of unique look. Well, at least her face does. But she did a good job with the script and the screenplay that she was given. But the villain's it's just bad, really. Kind of like, I know that I just called it serviceable because it is serviceable, right? She does sort of kind of get the job done, but it's a bad villain, right? And it's just like, there's nothing unique about her. Her motivation is a lot like other MCU villains and just regular villains in general. There was nothing special about her. There was nothing that stood out about her. There was, like, she was just nothing. She was just kind of there to serve as the villain, and she did that. But it's just nothing significant, nothing noteworthy, just nothing there really about the villain. The comedy wasn't cringe, but it also wasn't funny. The comedy in this movie isn't necessarily bad, because I never winced, I never cringed, I never rolled my eyes at anything that I saw up on the screen or heard or whatever, right? But it also, it was just kind of there. The only joke that I cringed, the only joke in the entire movie that I cringed at was the black girl magic joke from Nick Fury. I don't know what Marvel is doing with Nick Fury at this point, all right? I did not watch Secret Invasion. I have no interest in watching Secret Invasion. From what I heard people talking about, what they did to Nick Fury in Secret Invasion, and what I actually saw with my own eyes, what they're doing to him with the Marvels, it's just like they're just butchering this guy at this point, all right? And that black girl magic joke, oh my goodness, when I saw it in the trailer, it was horrible. When I saw it in the movie, I didn't cringe as hard, I'll have to admit, but it still was not a good joke. It was this weird attempt at, like, sort of like appealing to the black demographic, and just like it felt so weird. It felt so uncomfortable. It was absolutely terrible. All right, let's just move on. Another negative: the main characters aren't that interesting and don't go through any significant development. All right, so Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel, the main characters of this film, nothing against the actresses, because they all do a good job, all right? Especially, as you've probably heard everyone saying, Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel. She is undoubtedly the best part of this movie, all right? Everyone does a great job as far as the acting goes, all right? Nothing against them there. But the way how the characters are written, again, the screenplay, it just, like, there's nothing interesting about them. There's nothing appealing about them. There's nothing to grab onto with these characters. They're just kind of there. Right? they're just kind of there to be heroes, and they are that, but there's nothing interesting about them. There's nothing to remember about them. They don't go through anything significant. They're just kind of there and boring in a sort of way. And probably my biggest problem with this film, and also a reason why I say that it just doesn't feel significant enough to justify its existence, is because the stakes don't feel high thanks to the bad pacing and screenplay. Again, back to the problems with this film, with the pacing and the screenplay. The thing is that the movie is high stakes, all right? If you look at it, as it presents itself, it is actually high stakes, because at the end of it, kind of light spoilers here, the big ending set piece is that Darben is using a portal to basically suck the Earth's sun, like our Earth's sun's energy, to the Kree universe. That is a high stakes scenario that can be the big climactic scene of a film. You know, it can well serve that. But the way how it's done, the way how it's written, the way how it's staged and played out in the movie makes it so uninteresting, makes it like there's just no emotional weight to it. There is no sort of like impact to it at all, the way how it's written in the film. So it just completely falls flat and makes it feel as if there aren't actually any stakes at all, even though clearly with our eyes and our ears we can hear and see that there are stakes. Just the way how it's written is so flat and so boring and so regular in a way that it does not feel high stakes at all and just sort of falls flat as a climax. So yeah, that's also something that I noticed and something that was a problem for me. All right, so those are all my negatives. Let's go into the positives. Now, first off, shout out to all the actors in this, because there is good acting across the board. I think that all of the actors did a good job with what they were given. All right, as I said, as I've been saying, all right, this movie has bad pacing and a bad screenplay, and the characters aren't interesting enough. So it's really a testament to the actors and actresses that it came out as well, at least the characters came out looking as decent as they did, because they did a really good job with what they were given, in my opinion. Positive number 2, good fight scenes. Something that I was not expecting to like as much as I did was the fighting in the movie. I thought that the scenes were well shot and choreographed. They're not anything special, but they were pretty good. I was not expecting to like them, all right? Judging from the trailers, they kind of looked kind of choppy, sort of like the editing with them, but the switching back and forth with their powers and stuff aspect of it worked out pretty good, in my opinion. I enjoyed them a fair bit more than I expected, and in the end thought that they were pretty good overall. So yeah, good fight scenes. Positive number 3, good special effects. The effects looked good for the most part. I've seen some people saying bad stuff about the special effects, and honestly, I saw the movie in 3D. It didn't look that bad to me, honestly. Nothing spectacular, nothing really to stand out. But, given how everything is, it looked pretty good. Pretty good, at least. There were some scenes where I noticed sort of a falter, of course, but nothing that serious, in my opinion. So, yeah, just pretty good. Positive number 4, and my second favorite thing about this movie, is Captain Marvel's character felt improved over the original film. I greatly appreciated the boost in personality that they gave Carol Danvers in this movie, because in that first movie, oh boy, she became basically overnight the most hated character in the entire MCU, and basically honestly, like the most hated character in like superhero movies and TV shows at the time, because she just had zero personality, right? She had this sort of like Stonewall look to her the entire time. She like wouldn't really crack jokes or anything. Not that she has to, and there's nothing wrong with her being a serious character at all. It's just that they gave her nothing. They just made her overpowered and sort of like threw her out there like, yeah, she's a strong woman, she don't need no man or anything like that, right? It was just like all that in your face with no personality, nothing to like about her, nothing relatable. She was just perfect from the start. It's just nothing. There was absolutely nothing to that character at all. So in this movie, they gave her an actual personality. She is still for the most part serious, but she's loosened up a bit. She's enjoyable now, and that's basically what everyone was asking for from the first movie, and now that it's here, it is greatly appreciated. Positive number 5, and my biggest positive about the movie, the best part, well, the best thing about the movie, apart from Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, in my opinion, was the cancer came back joke. All right, this, of course, was not intentional on the MCU's part, but by mistake, I think, at least, they made one of the funniest jokes that I've heard all year, one of the funniest jokes in MCU history. All right, some light spoilers here. All right, Monica Rambeau's mother. All right, at some point she had cancer. It was going away, but it came back, right? So in the flashback scenes, when Captain Marvel is going through Monica's memories and stuff, and she sort of forcefully goes through to the memory of what happened to her mother, and then saw that the cancer came back. It was supposed to be such a serious moment and such a sad moment, of course, but again, back to the bad pacing, back to the bad screenplay, and in this specific case, a bad script. It just crashed onto the scene of Monica Rambeau's mother saying the cancer came back, and the makeup on her was terrible. They tried to make her look older and gray and sort of beat up by the cancer, and they just failed to do that completely. The actress looked ridiculous in that part, and it's just like I'm sorry, I just could not take it serious, man. Just like the way how they crashed onto that scene was absolutely hilarious. All right, I know that may sound kind of sick or whatever because cancer's all serious or whatever, but just the way, like, if you actually watch the movie for yourself, bro, you would see it for yourself. All right, that scene was absolutely hilarious. I don't care what anyone says, it was hilarious, and it made watching through that entire thing absolutely worth it. In conclusion, The Marvels is just okay in my opinion. It's got good acting across the board, surprisingly well executed fight scenes. Captain Marvel's boost in personality was very much appreciated, and as unintentional as it might have been, it contains one of the funniest jokes in MCU history. Unfortunately, none of these were strong enough to save the movie from its huge shortcomings. Weirdly off-kilter pacing that lacked emotional weight and mostly felt either too fast or too slow, a bad screenplay, uninteresting main characters, unmemorable villain, lackluster comedy, and a general lack of reason to exist hold it back to being just okay. I definitely like it a lot more than the original, and it's not the worst thing that the MCU has put out since Endgame, but I still don't think that watching it was time well spent, and honestly, it's not a movie that I see myself going back to anytime soon. So hopefully you enjoyed my review of The Marvels. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. This has been Fraser Talks Films. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload next. I'll see you all next time. God bless.